Hi you guys, and welcome to another Mindfulness Monday. So this week we are going to cover the topic of cravings and aversions and the constant habit pattern of the mind to like 99% of the time want homeostasis, want perfection, I want this, I crave this, I need this, I'm going for this, I don't like this, I don't know. Our mind 24/7 pretty much just runs that story in our heads of I like this, I don't like that. I don't want to be cold, I want to be warm. I want the temperature to be perfect, I want everything to be perfect. I'm hungry, I want to eat now, I want to do this. We're constantly craving and averting in our life. And when we sit down and have practices of mindfulness and meditation, then that's when we really see this habit pattern and chaos that's going on in the mind. And then we can start to really work with that, start to really change that gestalt, change that habit pattern. This comes up in terms of practice, like semantically, how this comes up is we kind of at a surface level live our lives, and we all have different psychological trauma or past experiences or things that we're just like kind of stuffing down or ignoring while we keep going on this hamster treadmill of like, oh, I don't like that, let's stuff that away, or oh, I don't like that, I don't want to deal with that right now, I just put that away. I like that, this is good, I don't like that, crave, avert, craving, aversion. And we kind of have, we suppress this and have this space of like functionality of where we can live functionally. Okay, I'm gonna go to my job, I'm going to get my bills paid. And we're just kind of at this surface level living. And so when we drop in, get subtle and deep and silent and quiet, it's this process, and I've talked to you about it in a few of the other videos, the process of purification. So when we get silent enough and still enough and concentrated enough, that purification process happens where all that shit starts to rise to the surface. So an example of this would be you're in a deep meditation, and when you first start meditating, you'll notice that every tiny little itch, every tiny little sensation will like want to drive you off that mat because you're not trained. You have a dull mind, and you're not trained to be able to sit with the sensation and not react. That's kind of at a rudimentary level. When you take this out off the cushion, off the meditation cushion, into your everyday life, an example would be, I have this thing happen, cause me stress. My automatic reaction is to reach for the sugar or candy or chocolate, stuff that in my face, or grab a cocktail or grab a drug or do something else where I'm like not really conscious and I'm just reacting, and I'm like thinking these things are going to satiate me. I deserve a break today. I worked really hard. I should have a cocktail, and I deserve this, and you know. And this is a cycle that we have been on 24/7, however many days you've lived on this earth. And it's imprinted upon you from your past lineage and heritage, epigenetics, biology. It's also been imprinted on us from all the experiences in our life. And so when you can get still, the beautiful benefit to this practice is you can have this place to play in of pre-processing power. Because what's happening as you get deeper into meditation and you get more honed and trained, you're pre-processing. So right now you may be at a dull level where you just reach for the candy bar until the sugar hits your mouth. You're like, oh, probably should have, like you didn't even know what triggered that up to that point. You just ate that sugar, or you reached for that drink, and you didn't even really stop to process and see what happened. Well, with meditators, they have this extra dimension and space to play in this buffer zone of pre-processing power. So when something comes up, you see these meditators have a lot of willpower and have higher thresholds of pain and all sorts of other things. It's because this pre-processing power kicks in, and they can feel that sensation come up before it hits the place of reaction, where you're like, oh, I don't want that, I want that, where you're taking action or you're reacting to whatever the sensation was. You instead get to drop back in and sit with that primordial thing. And maybe it was just the wind that hit you. Maybe it was a past emotion or trauma or whatever it is, but maybe it comes up in a sensation of burning or itching or anxiety or stress, and you feel it well up in your body. And instead of like allowing it to rise all the way up through and react, and you allow it to rise up and just get released without reacting to it. I know that sounds kind of silly and I'm crazy, but it's the process of purification. It's the process of liberation. That's what I would call it. It's liberation from all those sensations, not beholden to them. Not, this is, we all have addictions and habit patterns, and they're all different for every human being, and we all have different past trauma, and we all have the shit that we've got to work through, and it's just a matter and degree of how you work through it and what you want to do with it. And so that's what these practices do, mindfulness and meditation. And specifically, I'm going to ask you this week to look at every time during this week where something comes up that you say to yourself, you think to yourself, or you react to in a way that is congruent with, I don't like that, I do like that, I want more of that, I don't want more of that, craving, averting. And just start to see this process. And then I'm going to talk to you about 2 tools that you can use to do an inquiry about it. And this is a place where we have to do a little bit of thought inquiry. You've got to process these thoughts somehow because they're chaotic, and a lot of the shit our mind thinks is just BS. It's just ridiculous BS, self-preservation. And so we need to come to a point where we can truly see, oh, that's just my silly mind thinking that. That's a story my mind's trying to get me to follow and see. And one of the ways you can do that at the level of the mind is in looking at the bullshit your mind churns out and looking at your bullshit thoughts and saying they're not even true, not even productive. We think they are, but when you really do some self-inquiry on them, you're like, wait a minute, that story in my head kept playing over and over and over, churning up this story, this trauma, this stress over and over. We all get caught in those habit patterns about thinking about the one thing that happened last week that we thought about 100 times and played in our mind over 100 times. And so the most helpful tool out there I found is the process of self-inquiry called the work of Byron Keaney. And Byron Keaney is an amazing, living, beautiful teacher and guide and enlightened being that is living on this planet right now, and she puts these worksheets out on her website for free. Just look up the work of Byron Keaney, and you can even reach out to a facilitator. I'm going to put a link to some facilitators, and facilitators are just people who like sit with you, have you do the worksheet, and they inquire and ask you the questions, because at first it helps to have somebody to kind of check you and check your ego and check your, because our mind will spin little tales, and it'll distort the work, and it won't be honest with it until you get the hang of it. I always advise people, if you're going to start out with the work, have a facilitator. And what I love about the work of Byron Keaney is it is so gentle and so subtle, and yet so bam, when it hits you, it's like the most delicious truth. It's such a liberating truth. You're like, oh my God, that gem of honesty of like, I never even saw that whole interaction from that angle or that lens. I didn't even see it like that. And then from there, it unravels the thread of bullshit. And it's so beautiful. She puts a bunch of stuff up on YouTube. You guys just look up Byron Keaney on YouTube and look up a topic that you want to talk about. And what's so beautiful about her work is she talks about all these topics. She does all this work with all these people, but we're all human. We all experience the same shit. For the most part, we experience all the same emotions: fear, doubt, worry, shame, guilt, love, joy, ecstasy. Like, we all go through the same emotions. So when you see her doing the work with somebody else, you're gonna go, oh my God, I've done that before. And so it's so helpful to just watch somebody do the work. And it's beautiful when you watch somebody, like the light bulb goes on in like a way that's so fucking delicious, like a way that's so liberatingly delicious. I've had so many gems of truth revealed to me through that process of self-inquiry. And then you couple that with meditation and the practice of sensation and getting deep in meditation, and they're just like two beautiful tools to be used together. So that's the second tool. We need to get in our sensorial system, and this week start to play with. So every time this week you have that thought that comes up, you go, oh, I like that. Oh, I don't like that. Whatever it is, your thought, negative or positive, stop, close your eyes, drop into your body and start to feel the sensations. Just see, where is that coming from? Start that process of self-inquiry. What does that feel like in my body? What does that do to my breath? What does that do to my mind-body connection? What is this story my mind's telling me right now? And just start to move internally and see what's going on, and see that kind of turbulence and chaos in the body that those thoughts cause in the body, and just start to feel that sensation. And what happens through this process, you guys, that's really cool, is you get to a point where it happens like this because your pre-processing power and your pre-processing range gets bigger. And then along those lines, as you go through this process, you're gonna find places where you've got to stop and just sit back and maybe take a break a little bit and reassess your practice and find good guides and teachers, which is what I'm going to talk to you about next week, and to say, hey, I'm working through some shit. There's a lot of shit coming up right now. Like in the middle of that first long 10-day sitting I did, I was just like, holy crap, like so much shit came up and out that it was like clearing out like 30 years of shit, like 30 years in 10 days. And it was intense process, beautiful, liberating, but very intense. And so you have to have practices like metta meditation, love and compassion, because a lot of what comes up is not feeling good enough, or which is kind of our default mode, unfortunately, is to feel like we're not good enough. And so that's what practices like metta help. It's like, yes, I am worthy of joy and happiness, and this is a good process, and I am working through some stuff, and there are corners and dark places that are coming up and releasing out and letting out, and I need to give myself the room to let that happen, the room to breathe, the room to be, and to allow that process to happen. And I also need to have good guides and teachers and peers and support system that's going through this process that can help me through it, and we'll talk about that a little bit next week. And so this week, you guys, inquiry, do some work, Byron Keaney work. I will be posting some of her stuff this week. Also, you're going to get on the physical end, every time you sense I'm craving something, or I want something, I don't want something, I don't want to be here, I want to be somewhere else, I want that car, I really want that thing, whenever you feel that sensation, just stop and see what is going on internally with that. What are the sensations? What's going on? Do some really deep inquiry there. Do some honest inquiry there. So thanks for joining me, you guys, for this Mindfulness Monday series. We're wrapping it up next time, and I really appreciate you spending the time and effort and playing with me over these last months. I hope you've enjoyed it. Feel free to post if you have any questions, and have a fabulous Monday. Namaste.